The Kitten in the Castle is very sweet, visually beautiful, with some great lessons on how to look after a cat, or in some ways, how not to look after a cat. This is the second segment of the 25th episode of the third season of Mickey Mouse Funhouse, and as always, there will be spoilers as I discuss what happens and share some thoughts. And I love watching Funhouse to see how educational they are. I grew up watching a lot of television, and I love seeing shows that are particularly educational for young children because I know there's this whole stigma about spending a lot of time in front of the television, but I think I got a lot of education from TV shows, and I particularly loved TV shows about animals. And this episode I would have absolutely adored. It is not the most educational. It doesn't go into every tiny detail about how to look after kittens, but there are some really great bits of advice here. It starts off with the gang getting an invitation from Mayor Franken-Pete to go and see the changes he's made to his castle, and also to meet his new kitten, Lyss. And Minnie actually educates Goofy. She provides, I think, the first direct bit of education where she tells Goofy that kittens need a lot of exercise and play. And I feel like, yes, that is definitely some knowledge for young viewers to learn, but I also think that one's kind of directed at the parents who might be watching the show at the same time, or I guess listening to the show at the same time. And it is an important lesson. Kittens do have a lot of energy. They do need a lot of exercise. If you don't have time to play with them and help them use up their energy, maybe getting a kitten isn't the right thing at the moment. So I think that was a really great thing to include. Pete then has to go and sort something out in another part of the castle, so the gang have to look after Lyss, and they get clear instructions to not leave the ballroom. She will be safe and happy as long as they keep her in the ballroom, but they don't really follow Pete's instructions very clearly. Small things like, I think it was Goofy, I didn't write it down, but I'm pretty sure Goofy tried to get the kitten to play with the tablecloth, even though they'd been told to only let her play with her kitten toys, which I think is a really great bit of information, because I might have done this myself, I have absolutely no recollection, but young children may very well encourage their cats to play with their own toys or things around the house, things that could be potentially dangerous for cats. I had a cat when I was a child who loved my Barbie dolls. She would bring the Barbies out of the box and take them downstairs for my other cat. I don't know why. My other cat could go upstairs. I don't understand why. But cats will get into things that they shouldn't. And also, yes, I had quite a few Barbie dolls with cat tooth marks in their arms. So a great lesson there that you shouldn't try and encourage kittens or cats or any animals to play with things that are not designed for them, because cat toys generally are going to be a lot safer than human toys or indeed other random objects. So I think that was a really important bit to include, and the fact that we saw Goofy forgetting it gave us a chance to have that message reinforced, and I think that was very well done. And unfortunately, they end up losing Lyss. Lyss is scratching at the door, as kittens will do, and they realise that maybe there's something on the other side Lyss wants to see, so what harm could it do if they have just a peek on the other side? Nobody thought to actually protect Lyss, and of course they end up losing her, and they tell Pete, and Pete's a lot calmer than I would be, but at the same time he realises Lyss couldn't have gone that far. She must still be in the castle. So they go looking around the castle, and it gives us a chance to see the castle and see more of the environment. The whole going to see the castle to see the changes Pete has made is definitely underplayed. I don't know what changes were made. I'd have to look at other episodes with the castle and judge them side by side, but that part of it did seem kind of underdeveloped and honestly a little unnecessary. They could have just had an invitation to meet Lyss. They didn't need this whole changes to the castle. That being said, maybe the castle does look significantly different. I'm just not aware of it, and they were giving us an explanation for that. That could be the case as well. But either way, I feel like that part was setting us up for something that never really delivered. Ultimately, this made me laugh quite a lot, because Lyss is a black cat, and they find her as she wakes up and stretches out of a black blanket. And as somebody with a black cat who likes to sleep on black blankets, I could very much relate to that moment where she was there but not visible. Very, very funny. If you've got a black cat and black blankets, I'm sure you can relate. It's traumatizing when you can't find the cat and then you realise they're just on the black blanket. So I had a lot of fun with that. And thankfully, of course, Lyss was curled up, completely unaware of the chaos that was happening. And Pete then gives her a glow-in-the-dark collar, which again is another great bit of advice. I love this in particular because not everybody puts a collar on their cat. And if your cat is an outdoor cat, particularly, I have an indoor cat and she has a collar because you never know what could happen. But even if you have an outdoor cat, even if they're microchipped, it is my opinion that they need a collar, because otherwise how will somebody know that they're not a stray? I don't want to get too morbid and depressing, but something happens to that cat, somebody sees it doesn't have a collar, they might assume it's a stray. Whereas if they see the cat with a collar, they might take extra steps to inform the vet or see if they can find the owner to let them know something has happened to the cat. So in my opinion, cats should always have collars, and I like that they included this because not every adult is going to put a collar on their cat. But if a child watches this and learns from Pete that the cat needs a collar, they might then ask the parent for a collar. And the parent might say no. I hope they don't. But they might say, okay, fine, we'll get a collar, even if the parent, the adult, wasn't necessarily that bothered. So I think that was a really great thing to include as well. So as I said, it doesn't go into every tiny detail about things you need to consider when getting a cat, but there are some great points in here for children, great points in here for adults. And as a story, it works well, it flows well, the pacing's great, the animation is beautiful. Lyss is absolutely adorable. I don't know if we'll see much of her again. I hope we do. I think she's very, very cute. And I think there are a lot of great takeaways here. The kitten in the castle. Maybe I'm biased because I love cats, but I'd say it's one of the most beneficial episodes of Funhouse. The ones about sharing and thinking of others, they're all fantastic. But most children's TV shows will address those topics at some point or another. Whereas not that many give this much useful information about things you need to consider and steps you need to take when adopting a kitten or even a fully grown cat. So I think it's done a fantastic thing that not that many children's shows will do. So The Kitten in the Castle is ultimately great. It's a lot of fun. I love the environment. I love the spooky episodes. Maybe one of my favourites. Slightly biased, but I do think it's a pretty fantastic episode of Mickey Mouse Funhouse.